Hello and welcome to the Passion Driven Pioneers interview series. I am your host, John Channon, and today I'm joined by Pete Wolf, who is the president of Robinson Rubber Products Company. Pete, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, John.
Would you like to kick us off with a brief background as to who you are, what you do in the business or industry that you're in?
Absolutely. So my name is Pete Wolf. I'm the president and owner of Robinson Rubber Products. Our business has been around for 80 years. I'm the fourth owner now. Recently minted owner about a year ago, but I've been working here for almost 8 years now. Prior to this, I had almost 10 years of experience with a medical device manufacturer here in the Twin Cities. That's where I learned a lot of my business acumen, I would say, and as well as some technical abilities. And prior to that, I did about 3.5 years with a contract manufacturer right out of college, doing injection molding as well. So I've been a rubber injection molding geek my whole life. Kind of stayed that path, and finally ended up making it to the ownership play that kind of started out with that. And I can kind of give you a little history background, what got me interested in going this path. So I was interested in business since I saw my uncles owning a furniture factory growing up. And my dad had a side carpentry business that we helped folks out, miscellaneous jobs. And my dad did that just to make ends meet aside of his day job. And around the age of 9, I started had my own paper route, and learned a lot of good traits, especially as I look back now to what I learned then. I'd get maybe paid $20 a week, but I found out what the customers liked, and I would make almost $100 in tips a week. So I made the wage look very small, but understanding that the customer and what they needed and where it wanted, they pay extra for that. 14, my dad helped me, and my parents supported me starting a painting business of houses in town, and required a lot of effort because we lived about 6-8 miles out of town. So rode bike, managed everything, worked with the owner of the homes, and I got the work done. At the age of 17, I was already kind of exiting high school, not planning to go to college. And I was working commercial refrigeration. I thought I was going into the trades. That's what I knew. My dad had taught me so many different skills there. And as I got into it, the owner of that company said, "Hey, I'll start you out at this really good wage, $40,000 a year, and in about 5 years you can buy the business." I was already leading different teams already at that young age. But I had some injuries in high school that the doctor said, "What are you planning on doing?" I said, "Well, I'm going to go into the trades." And he said, "That's probably not so good for you. You won't walk when you're 40 if you keep down that path." So I remember coming home and saying, "Hey, I got to go to college, Mom, Dad." And they're like, "Nobody's ever gone to college." My dad thought it was a terrible financial decision. You're going to spend about $250,000 between no pay and paying for school, and you're going to set yourself back pretty heavily, early in your career. But I made the decision. Ended up getting into manufacturing engineering is the degree that I went for, and got out as quick as I could in 4 years with that degree, and looked around and saw the injection molding as a great avenue. Plastic was everywhere 20 years ago. So I did that, started a contract manufacturer, which looks a lot like the business I'm in today, and ended up owning. And I was working 60, 80 hours a week. I thought it was like free school. It was great. And I was getting paid. And ended up leading a small team there of manufacturing engineers. But jumped over to a larger company called Boston Scientific, corporate world. And I was doing some supplier engineering, traveling around the world, fixing plastic issues, and then LSR issues. And, got pretty good at that, but I was chirping, enough in the business that the operations team, caught wind of me saying, "Why don't we mold our own parts internally?" So we started building our own molding factory right in Arden Hills. And that grew from 2 machines to 20 machines in the space of a handful of years. And at the same time, I ended up doing, managing like 4 or 5 other manufacturing lines for Boston. But I got caught walking across the parking lot. It was a kind of an interesting time because I had a huge workload on my way to directorship or whatnot. But I just had a new 1-year-old son at home. And so you start doing some life reflecting at that time, and you finally have this achievement. And the recruiter said, "Hey, we got this job." I said, "No, I get paid pretty good here. I'm not looking for anything." And he said, "What's one thing that would get you to consider leaving Boston?" I said, "Well, if there was an ownership play, I could kind of go back to my old dream." And he said, "Well, this is your lucky day." Which I thought was really cool because, believe it or not, at 31, 32 years old, you kind of think your life's over. But I got to, pursue this opportunity. So after about a year of courting, with the owner and talking, through different logistics, we struck a deal. And I was supposed to buy the business 5 years after I started. COVID hit and jumped in and what played a factor, but finally got the deal done after 6.5 years. Required a little bit of extra resiliency to get through that. But joining Robinson, we've grown the company from around, we almost doubled the company in the 6.5 years that I was here. So it was been a great ride, and we have a great future. So, grand scale, the reason I did it, I love helping people. I love making a difference. I like having families to support. There's a lot of people think that you do it for the money, but it's not. I love what I do every day. I'm one of the lucky people that the job I do every day, it doesn't feel like a job. And somebody's like, "Oh, you're going to work." It's like, well, it is work, but I really enjoy it. I'd almost rather do this than go fishing or something. So,
Oh, that says a lot.
yeah. And I like fishing.
That says a lot. And it sounds like you've had quite the journey to business ownership here. Being an entrepreneur as a young person, and then working all the different businesses you came into, and then having to go to school. That's a really, really good story. So tell us a little bit about um, this agreement you had to kind of come forward and work for a while, but work towards ownership. What did that look like when you guys were first kind of talking about that, and what were some of the key elements of that?
Yeah, so we actually, both cautious, this was the third owner of the business. He'd been here for 35 years. He's still on the payroll today, but it was a big decision to hand the reins off and to, preserve his legacy and, the future of the company. So there's a lot of different ways you can exit a business, whether you're selling to investment bankers, private equity, or you train somebody up kind of to take the reins, that technically knowledgeable enough business acumen, and has the right, moral code, I guess. And so, again, we spent over a year talking to each other, making sure this was a good fit. At the end of that, not only was there an offer letter, but there's intent to purchase that was signed, just like I was an equity firm going to buy a business. Again, there was strings attached, I think, on both sides, right? I got trained up in the business, it was going to be harder to, to move forward without me, or have to start over. But also, right, I could earn a little bit of equity stake to go towards the purchase of the business as well. So, it felt like a win-win, and but it required trust on both of our parts. And then all the things that come up in life, the resiliency you're going to have, from family members getting sick or passing, or just different life events that make you question. And then now throw COVID in there, and there was a lot that came out of that was unforeseen as well. But we were able to get through and overcome every obstacle, and finally get to signing the real purchase agreement a little over a year ago.
Was there anything that, obviously, as you were being trained and developed to kind of take on this organization, was there anything that you wish you would have known as you were going through the process that you know now, right?
Yeah, I think I was pretty young, naive, just walking into it, young 30-year-old. I was smart on the technical side, but on the business side, right, like what to look at in the books, I couldn't afford to hire somebody to help me review all the books. Every penny I was spending investigating this felt like it was a detraction out of my pocket at the time. So I think that was really, really challenging. But anyone that would be in my similar situation, it'd be try to find a group of advisors, attorneys, tax attorneys, accountants, and pull them in. I would say my biggest resource was my personal accountant who had some business experience, and he did help review the numbers with me. And then it was all on my shoulders about reviewing the internal systems, whether electronic, routing systems in the manufacturing plant existed or could be upgraded, and really looking for maybe not focusing on what's wrong, but what was an opportunity to make better. I think that was really it. Like everyone wants to buy a perfectly running, factory, but then there's not as much room for improvement. So if you're going to buy something or a business, I'd say it's almost like the advice you get from a stockbroker. Buy the stock when it's down, not when it's up. You want to know that there's some upside, but you want to buy low, sell high kind of thing. And I think, for Robinson as well, it's like we recognized a lot of opportunity even in the 6 years I was here. We doubled the company. And there's still more we can do in the coming years. And if I didn't have that confidence in being able to continue to grow and offer great solutions to our customers, I probably wouldn't have moved forward with the deal.
I'm going to change subject here. Talk a little bit about what's your work-life balance now versus maybe what it was like when you first started recognizing that you were moving into an ownership role in this business.
So definitely my work-life balance before Robinson, I'll speak of that a little bit. The corporate world is, we had factories that were running 24/7. I remember plenty of nights, up at 2 a.m, sitting in the master bath on the phone with a production supervisor or this machine broke or that. That was an interesting dynamic too. And traveling around the world, and there wasn't a lot of options. It was, you need to be in Ireland, you need to be in Sweden, you need to be in Costa Rica, all great fun places to be. But again, having a 1-year-old, you start thinking, I want to be here. I don't want my wife to be a single mother. That changed immediately when I came over to Robinson, back to the contract manufacturer world. We're a 24/5 and well-established operational team. Like we got a great team. We do run 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, but there's nobody that they don't have to call me for every little problem. That's what's I think was really cool is coming into a very well-trained team, good equipment, good maintenance plan. At the end of the day, I got to focus my time, even if I was in the office, which I worked 5 days a week in the office, 8 to 10 hours a day, as an engineering manager and president. But outside of work, I would do more work, right? I would think strategy. I was planning for the business purchase and keeping my list of how we we're going to do this. And that was fun, but balancing the family, right? Like that was a challenge. Because for me specifically, the business was about 60 miles away from my home. So my commute was, it chewed up 2 to 3 hours of my day usually. So if I needed to be home, I had to schedule my day as such. Since taking over the business, I've wrapped in a few more freedoms. I do work 1 day a week from home. So I plan a Friday at home, which actually becomes a catch-up day or a full strategy day, which has been great. It keeps me really level-headed. I'm home, I'm present. I can drive my kid to school 1 day a week or get him on the bus, whatever we choose to do. I can go to lunch with my wife instead of, a business lunch. And so we've had more time to connect there and talk about our personal hopes and dreams. So I think all in all, right, the whole business journey and ownership has been a net positive for me and my family.
Yeah, I used to work in the corporate world as well, and I can remember when I started my own business, what we had to get used to was that I was home all the time. Right? I mean, I wasn't traveling around the world like I had been doing in corporate world. So it's but it was good to have to get used to that. So
Yeah, no, it was a good problem to have. My wife too, and she's like, "Are you gonna be home every Friday? If you are, like," and she runs a little daycare out of the house too, so she's got kids and they like seeing me, but if we're in the kitchen at the same time, it's like we had to figure that out, but it's been a fun, problem to solve. And, to be able to go at lunchtime and swing my nieces on a swing or something, that's pretty neat.
That sounds cool. So you mentioned, in 6 years, you guys have been able to double the business.
Mhm.
Could you offer maybe a glimpse into your future plans and goals for your business?
Yeah, I mean, we're at a neat spot in our company journey. Me being the fourth owner, in an 80-year-old company. Um, we we started as a tire recapping company, way back when downtown Minneapolis, Ralph Robinson, and for a business to survive as long as it has, we're definitely not recapping tires today. We evolved into discrete molded components, and from discrete molded components, kind of junk rubber, we'd call that. We started doing precision rollers that were bonded to steel shafts, and that supported the paper industry and the printed circuit board industry. And now, since we don't do rollers anymore either, and we don't do the junk rubber parts, we do precision, highly engineered rubber components, bonded assemblies, and the parts that we do only go into applications where they can't hide. If a $3 or $5 rubber part fails, probably a $500,000 machine or manufacturing process is going down. So our customers depend on us for reliable rubber products, and they have to last for 5 to 20 years in application. And that's what we've been hanging our hat on, and we're going to have to continue to evolve, just like the previous owners have had to evolve with what markets are out there. What do our customers need as technology changes? So, we have our eye on staying abreast the latest, energy technologies, whether it's electrical distribution, power generation, oil and gas. So all of those sectors continue to change right now, and they're needing, they find new problems that they need solved, and hopefully Robinson's there to be that solution and partner with their engineering teams on designing in the rubber solution. So the earlier we get involved in their product development, the sooner we can solve the broader problem. If they just come to us and say, hey, here's the rubber part we need, we probably could have eliminated 3 or 4 components in their assembly and saved them 5 or 10 minutes on the assembly, and potentially help save them some shipping or other things. So I think that's where we're going to find our next biggest partnership, going forward, and we're seeing good traction there, and we're gonna keep working that angle, and we're gonna have to plan, do, check, adjust as the world keeps changing.
Well, that was great. That was a nice little glimpse into how you guys are staying adaptable and some of the strategies that you've been using to remain innovative. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. So recognizing that this show is directed towards people who are in the process of either starting up a business or in the first few years of a business, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with our audience today?
Well, I guess from my experiencing, purchasing an existing business is an option. You don't have to start something from scratch, which requires a lot of capital and a lot of risk. This was definitely a less risky way, but I think the options, they're fewer and further between. But you need to network, you need to find the opportunities, you need to be open to them, and they're going to come, especially with where the dynamic of business ownership is today. I think there's a lot of individuals that have owned the businesses for 20, 30 years, and they want to retire, they want to enjoy their retirement, but they're not as excited about handing it off to an equity firm or an investment banker and watching it just get gobbled up. So there are forums out there, there are business brokers out there, there's a list of businesses that are for sale, as well. I didn't know about that at the time, but those are definitely options that you can do, and I can point you to them, or there's a lot of folks out there, but just look up business brokers and they can help you. But I think more on the entrepreneur side, I think setting goals, and don't be stubborn to change your goal. But you don't have to give up on it. I think I didn't know I was going to land in a rubber business. At some point I thought a plastics company was the way I was going to go, but rubber is unique in the fact that we make our own material from scratch. We control our destiny, and we're very specific to the application, where most plastic is a little bit more general and generic. So this looks like a good lasting type of business, which But otherwise, I would say make connections and relationships are really key to a successful business. Making connections both with your customers and your vendors. You have to be out there and learning what they need or what their problems are and try to solve for them. There's no straight line to success. That's all I can say, or growth. You'll need to be resilient to weather the storm and give encouragement to your team and your customers, even if you're uncertain of yourself. And I think that's part of what I do every day, even if things are a little bit bumpy, I have to give encouragement that we're gonna get through this, we're gonna solve for this. I think, sometimes folks can give up if it gets hard. And so yeah, be very resilient, I would say.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time today, Pete.
You
It was
bet. Well,
great.
thank you, John.
Oh, you're welcome. And it was great meeting you, learning more about your journey to business ownership and all the experiences that you've had. And to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.